Hello Soberinos and welcome to this week's Friday Fix. Today I'm talking to you about what happens when we slip up or have a blip and reach for alcohol again. There have been quite a few conversations recently in the Facebook group where people have described feeling frustrated, feeling distressed because they've slipped up, they've gone back to drinking alcohol again. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. And to first of all stress that this is completely normal, that this happens to all of us. Well, not to all of us, actually, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to lots of us. It happens to enough of us to make it normal. So this is a normal thing. The reason that it's a normal thing is because there is kind of a conflict going on. When we first start thinking about stopping drinking, when we first actually do stop drinking, there are two parts of our brains. One part is the unconscious part, one part is the conscious part. And quite often there is a conflict between the conscious part of us that knows what it wants. It recognises that we want to stop drinking, we want to stay sober, we recognise all of the benefits that that is going to bring us. We think that's going to be a healthier way to live our lives, and that's really the path that we want to go down. And that conscious part of us that understands all of that and wants to do the right thing is kind of doing battle with the unconscious part of us. The unconscious part of us is the part that we're completely unaware of. And that's the part of us that wants to resort to familiar patterns, to familiar habits and routines. And believe it or not, that unconscious part of us is the part that's in the driving seat. So if we are not well prepared enough, if we haven't planned well enough ahead, it's possible that we can sometimes be taken by surprise by events or by the crap that life throws at us. And it's in those moments where we're kind of taken by surprise and we're not really consciously and purposefully thinking about what we're doing and how we're going to do things that we can be taken by surprise. Our unconscious kind of automatic pattern of behaviour can creep in and just take over, and we can find ourselves reaching for a drink before we know it. And that is completely normal. So I want to reassure you of that straight away, that if you have been through a bit of a blip, if you have struggled and you've reached back for alcohol again, that doesn't say anything bad about you. That is completely normal. It's completely understandable. Lots of us have been through very similar things. Now, I've got plenty of examples of when I have been through similar things. See, I don't know how it is for you watching people like me waxing lyrical about how wonderful life is sober, but I also want to reassure you that I was once in that position. I was once the person who kept slipping up, who kept going back to drinking. I mean, I can remember when I first started thinking about stopping drinking, when I first realised that this was a problem for me, I can remember thinking about it loads, telling myself that I'm not going to drink this weekend, and then going ahead and drinking this weekend. I can remember countless times, hundreds and hundreds of times, telling myself, like when I had a holiday coming up or a weekend away coming up, or just a weekend of socialising coming up, that I wasn't going to drink because I wanted to be clear-headed for the week ahead. I wanted to be fit for work. I didn't want to feel hungover and shitty. I can remember having all of those conversations with myself and being absolutely adamant that I was not going to drink this weekend. And then lo and behold, finding myself drinking because that was the automatic pattern of behaviour and I hadn't prepared well enough. I can also remember going for short periods of time without drinking quite successfully. I can remember, you know, doing a week without alcohol easily enough, doing a couple of weeks easily enough, and then just resorting back to drinking again when, I don't know, when things became too uncomfortable or too distressing, or life threw something at me that I couldn't handle, or simply because I was feeling quite happy and I just wanted to intensify the joy. There were so many reasons why I would reach for alcohol. And I can remember all of that happening, and I can remember going for weeks without drinking and then reaching back for alcohol again. I can remember going months and even longer without drinking and reaching back for alcohol again, because I simply hadn't planned and prepared well enough in advance. I can remember one particular occasion. I don't actually know how long I had been sober, but it was months that I'd been sober, if not over a year. And I can remember it was a birthday. It was my birthday, and my partner Stuart had booked us for a surprise weekend away near Snowdon, in Snowdonia, in North Wales, in the UK. And he'd booked us into this gorgeous B&B stroke hotel. And it was one of these beautiful old buildings, a big kind of like an old manor house. And it was very historical. It's exactly the kind of place that I love. I love old buildings and I love a bit of history. I remember we walked into this building and I was absolutely smitten with the way it looked, with all of the old stuff that was in there, painting on the walls, dark, deep, rich red paint on the walls, green on the walls, lots of old wood, mahogany, dark oak. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. I walked into this building and I was just mesmerised by it. And we were in this gorgeous bedroom with high ceilings and big old windows overlooking the most amazing views. And I was so happy and I was so high and I was so excited. I was skipping about like a little girl and I was just loving it. I was loving my birthday. I was loving the surprise. I was loving the scenery. I was loving the fact we were going to walk up Snowdon the following day. I was looking forward to our evening meal because they had a proper restaurant with a Michelin-starred chef and we were going to eat really good quality food. And as I was sort of excitedly exploring the room that we were in and the bathroom and skipping about, I noticed they had a drinks tray. So there was one of these old-fashioned kind of silver trays on a little sideboard, and it had brandies and it had different spirits, and it had probably, I think it had sherries and martinis. Anyway, it had a range of drinks. And when I first went into the room, I don't remember paying that much attention to the drinks tray because I guess it didn't compute. It was just, you know, well, I'm not drinking. That's not part of the weekend, so I didn't even think about it. But then we'd been out for an afternoon walk, and we'd been, I don't know, it was one of those. I used to get, I don't know about you, but there were all sorts of reasons why I would drink. I would drink if I was unhappy. I would drink if I was bored. I would drink if I was stressed. I would drink if I was anxious. I would drink if it was sunny and warm and summer and I could hear other people drinking. I would drink if it was winter, dark, windy, cold. I would drink to cheer myself up. I would drink for just about any reason under the sun. And one of the reasons I would drink would be if I was feeling happy and excited and I was full of joy, I would want to kind of heighten the intensity of that experience. And so I would reach for alcohol to take me to another level of intense joy and excitement and happiness. And that was kind of how I felt that particular evening. We'd been out for a walk in this wonderful scenery and got back to the room, saw the drinks tray there. We were so excited. We were getting ready for dinner, you know, we were getting showered and I was putting a bit of makeup on and I was putting a nice dress on to go down for dinner. And I can remember looking at the tray of drinks and looking at Stuart and kind of wistfully looking at this tray and sort of thinking to myself, oh, I could just have one. I could just have a drink. And of course, looking back at it now, this is completely nonsensical and I'm laughing at myself doing that, standing there looking at this tray and thinking wistfully, oh, I could have one. And in the excitement of getting ready for the evening meal. And I can remember looking at Stuart and saying, oh, do you think I should have a drink? Knowing full well that Stuart didn't understand the problem. Stuart had never had a drinking problem. In fact, Stuart had never, he just wasn't a big drinker. When I first met Stuart, he hardly used to drink at all. He used to drink more and more because he was with me over the years, but he just wasn't a drinker. So he just didn't understand the problem, and I'd never really spoken to him much about the problem either, so he didn't know how much of a problem it was. But he had no understanding of the problem. And so as I said those words, oh, do you think I could have a drink? Of course, I knew, my unconscious mind knew that he was just going to say, yeah, have a drink, it's your birthday. And that's exactly what he did say. He said, yeah, have a drink, it's your birthday. And the way my unconscious mind was working, it was kind of looking for any excuse to reach back for alcohol again. It interpreted Stuart saying that as permission for me to go ahead and have a drink. So I don't know what I had. I think I might have had a sherry or a martini, or it was an aperitif, whatever it was. Having that aperitif made me feel great. It did exactly the job I wanted it to do. It heightened my pleasure and my joy. And I went down for the evening meal. And of course, it gave me more permission to drink more. So I had a bottle of wine. I think we might have shared a bottle of wine. Oh, let me just get rid of my alarm going off. It gave me permission to drink more. And although I think we did a very sedate, for me, a sedate evening of sharing a bottle of wine between us, which of course I felt really proud of. I felt that having a nice little aperitif before the meal, sharing half a bottle of wine with Stuart with the meal, was something I would never normally do. I would go on to drink at least 2 bottles of wine, if not more. That felt like a very sedate, grown-up, civilised evening. And of course, the fact that I had done that very civilised, sedate evening of drinking an acceptable amount, which wasn't too overboard, kind of gave me then permission to slip further down that slippery slope. Now, we had a wonderful weekend. That evening was wonderful. The following day was wonderful. But that whole weekend led to me then going right back down that slope, back down to the bottom, feeling miserable, going back to my old drinking habits, and yeah, going back to square one again. I can remember another occasion where I met up with family in London for an evening, and I'd been sober for a good year at this point, longer than a year. And I remember going to my sister's in London. We were all sat outside. It was a summer's evening. We were having a kind of picnic barbecue thing in the garden. You know, there were those summer sounds all around in the city around us. There was a really good atmosphere. There were the clinking of glasses. And I allowed myself to have a white wine spritzer, thinking that that was a lovely drink to have, because it wasn't a proper drink. Because normally I would guzzle huge quantities of wine, and I would never in a million years dream of watering the wine down with anything like soda. So for me, having a white wine spritzer was not like having a proper drink, but it was enough to give me the feeling of having a bit of alcohol. And of course, again, it was a wonderful evening. I had a couple of white wine spritzers. It was great. It was very civilised, but it led to that slippery slope, and I went back to my old drinking habits. So I have got plenty. I think those were the only 2 examples that I could think of where I'd gone for a really long stretch for like months or a year or more of drinking, and then of not drinking rather, and then I'd gone back to it again. But most of the time for me, it was about going for a few weeks, going for maybe even a couple of months, and then going back to drinking again. And I just want to reassure you that this, if it's happening to you, is normal behaviour. It's happened to me. It's happened to lots of us. The thing about having a blip, and this is really the point of today's Friday Fix, the thing about having a blip is that you can use it as a learning opportunity. You can reframe it. You don't need to think about it as, this means you're a failure. This means that you can't do this. That's not true. What's true is that we quite often go back to our unconscious and automatic patterns of behaviour simply because we haven't planned and prepared well enough. And we can use, when I think back to those blips now, I can see that what they were doing was they were setting me on my path to success. That might sound a bit weird or a bit contradictory. But if you're ever feeling like a failure because you've reached for alcohol and you've had a blip, you can reframe the whole thing and you can look at it as that blip has taught you something. It's taught you more about what works and what doesn't. And when I think back to my blips, that's exactly what I can see. They were teaching me what works and what doesn't. And one of the biggest bits of information that those blips gave me, because that's all they are, they're events that give you feedback. They give you information. You can learn from them. And what I learned from them was that it's not possible for me to allow myself even a smidgen of alcohol as a civilized treat or reward because I now know I can successfully not drink. That's just not possible for me. I know I can't do that. Or if I can do that, it would be too much hard work. It's much easier for me to just not drink, to just be someone that doesn't drink alcohol because it's a healthier lifestyle choice. And that's the learning that I got from those blips. So every little blip that you have, every struggle that you have is giving you feedback. It's giving you information. And as long as you're giving yourself some reflection time, some time to actually reflect on it, some time to reflect on what happened, what exactly happened, what exactly was the trigger, when did it happen, what time of day was it, what were the circumstances that led up to it, where did it happen, is there a particular place? You give yourself enough reflection time to analyse the trigger, what went on, when did it go on, where did it go on? You ask yourself why it happened, what was the particular set of circumstances leading up to the trigger that led you to drink? How did it make you feel? What can you learn from it? How could you do things differently next time? Who do you need on board? Do you need anybody around you that can support you with this? Or do you just need to be online in a community like this? Or do you need more people around you supporting you? Do you need to let your family know? Do you need to let your friends know? For me, I didn't feel as if I needed to let my friends and family know too much about what I was doing. They needed to know that I was no longer drinking alcohol, but they didn't need to know the they didn't need to know the trauma of it. They didn't need to know the ins and outs. They didn't need to know the finer detail. All I needed to tell them was that I was going alcohol free. I was living my life without drinking because I was making a healthier lifestyle choice. And that was the way I framed it to everybody, that it was making me feel so shitty, so sluggish, so lethargic. I wanted to see what life was like without alcohol in it. And it was all about being healthy. It was all about being able to work out. It was all about being able to eat a nutritious diet and fuel my body with nourishing, nutritious foods. So I was cutting alcohol out. And that was all I needed to say. And I had the full support of everybody around me. They didn't need to know the ins and outs. But I did need, the people I needed on board was an online community. I needed to be with other people who had experienced other things that were similar to what I'd experienced. So I found that really useful. But you need to kind of ask yourselves the who, what, why, when and where questions. You need to give yourself that reflection time of what's happening, why it's happening, how it's making you feel, how you can do things differently next time, who you need to get involved, and all of those questions. And by doing that, what you're doing is giving yourself an opportunity to learn from these blips and to do things differently next time, to be better prepared next time a similar trigger happens. So that is it for today's Friday fix. I will be doing, for those of you who are interested in the regular live sessions, look out, watch this space for more information about the next live session coming up. I will be, if you are already a guidance member, I will be emailing you some information about the next live session. If you're not already a guidance member and you're interested in the live sessions, then get along to the website, sign up for a guidance membership, and you will receive some information. You will receive some emails about that. But watch this space for little bits of information telling you what's coming up. The next live session we'll be doing more around how to use mental rehearsal, positive mental rehearsal, to set yourself up for sober success. We'll be introducing you to another technique around that and how to keep yourself on your sober tracks and stay strong and stay motivated. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm also looking forward to catching up with all of you in tomorrow's Saturday Share in the Facebook group, where we will be discussing what makes Saturdays sober better, what's good about sober Saturdays. But in the meantime, let's go get sober together. Bye for now.